What's up, everyone? Those That Wish Me Dead just released on HBO Max and in theaters, so let's review it. So real quick, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought of the movie. And we're going to be talking some light spoilers for the movie, but it's spoilers nonetheless, so you have been warned on that regard. Anyway, let's get into the review. So this movie is directed by Taylor Sheridan, who's obviously, he's known for his screenwriting ability. He's written like Sicario and like Hell or High Water and a few other movies, like really good movies. So this was definitely going to be interesting from the beginning. He also wrote Without Remorse, which came out like 2 weeks ago maybe. So that was a decent movie, I think. So it was definitely interesting to see what he does here with this movie. It also stars Angelina Jolie, John Bernthal, Nicholas Hoult, and a few others in the kind of lead roles. There's a number of characters this movie's following. So essentially the plot of this movie is two hitmen or mercenaries or whatever you want to call them. They're hunting people who like know some information about some like money thing or some like banking thing, something fairly simple like that. So they're going after this guy who like knows a lot of information, and so he leaves town with his son, and he goes to like Montana, this like wilderness area in Montana, and the mercenaries or whatever you want to call them, hitmen, I don't know what to call them. I'll just call them mercenaries for the whole video. They're hunting him throughout the video, him and this kid, and then essentially the kid winds up with Angelina Jolie, who's a fire jumper in the Montana wilderness area where there's like forest fires frequently or something like that. And so then they end up having to survive as they're getting hunted, and that's really the plot of the movie. Fairly simple. It's not a super complex plot or anything. And like obviously like John Bernthal, he's like a police officer in the movie, he gets involved with this kind of these mercenaries that are in town killing people and doing bad stuff and all that, and the plot just really moves on from there. So overall, I thought this movie was decent. For starters, I think this movie looks great. There's a number of like beautiful landscape shots of like the Montana wilderness with and without forest fires that just, I think, look really good. It doesn't look as good because I watched it on streaming services, and streaming services never look as good, unfortunately, but if you were seeing it in theater, I imagine those scenes looked really, really good. But they're just like shots of this wilderness and these tree landscapes, and they're really nice. And you can see the director was kind of passionate about these kind of shots. And I think I'm a sucker for like wilderness shots. I love like the North American wilderness and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed these shots. I think they looked really good, and it was just like the cinematography in this movie was really nice, and it made the movie a lot better. And there's a number of scenes like that. It was very frequent throughout the movie with these really nice shots, along with like the forest fire scenes that just looked really good, and they felt like really scary, and it really gave the vibe of the forest fire and this like the unknown and like the scariness of that situation, and the number of scenes throughout the movie that had forest fires at the beginning and the end. So overall, this movie had like a really high production quality, and that really adds to making a movie watchable. Even if the plot's not great, I'm not saying this plot's not great, but if the plot's not great or something about the movie's just not good, the production quality being that high just makes it so much more watchable. Along with the production quality, the plot was fairly entertaining and intriguing. It's fairly simple. It's kind of a generic kind of story, but it was intriguing enough, and it's a simple premise of, you know, mercenaries hunting people down. That's a plot that's been done a bazillion times, but it's fine. It's a good plot. It's a good concept. You know, stories can be redone and stuff like that. So I think that concept's fine in this movie. That didn't bug me at all. And another part of this movie that made it really just watchable and entertaining was the performances and the acting. This movie obviously has an amazing cast, a really good cast for kind of a movie that kind of feels like a small little movie. The cast here is really good, especially with Angelina Jolie, Nicholas Hoult, John Bernthal. They're all amazing in their respected roles, and their performances are all great, and it really makes the movie more entertaining when you have, you know, these big names that just stand out in the movie along with the characters. I really liked how it followed the mercenaries in the movie, you know, and Nicholas Hoult. I don't know the other actor's name, but there's two main bad guys in the movie. They got a fair amount of screen time in the movie, and I really like that. It definitely added like an interesting perspective and narrative to the movie, alongside, you know, with Angelina Jolie and her plot, and as well as John Bernthal and his plot. So there's really three main plots, but I really like that it did follow the mercenaries. I thought that was a really good idea for this movie. But anyway, the cast in this movie is great, and it definitely makes the movie better. Like I said, the plot in this movie is fairly generic and fairly simple, but I think that's completely fine here. It's more about the execution of the plot that matters. I also think the execution is pretty good by the director. I particularly liked the first act of this movie when it was really setting everything up. I don't think the final act, where everything was setting up, where all that led to, I don't think that was as strong as the first two acts of the movie. I think those were really strong in setting up the situation with the mercenaries hunting people, and that was a really good premise. I don't think the final act lived up to what it was setting up, but I still think it was, overall, the plot and the execution of the plot was very strong, though I do think it fell apart a little at the end. But as I've kind of been alluding to, I do have one major issue with the movie, kind of a few minor issues grouped into one major issue, and that is just how unrealistic the action is and really how unrealistic the just ideas in this movie are. But this movie's like trying to be dramatic and realistic, and that's fine and all, but it doesn't help when you have this action that's just really not believable and just really kind of holds the movie back to me. There's a number of scenes in this movie where the main characters are getting injured in some way, like Angelina Jolie like falls like 20 feet out of that fire tower, or she gets hit by lightning of all things, or the scene where the kid's dad gets killed and then the car like goes flying off a cliff and into a rock and the kid's not even buckled up and he's completely fine, like the airbags don't even go off. It's stuff like that that just really holds the movie back for me, because there was just so much of that where you have to kind of be like, all right, that's fine, you kind of have to put it in the back of your head, pretend that doesn't bug you, and then but you have to keep doing that in this movie. There's so many scenes like that. Like I could go on and on about like scenes in this movie that just don't work in terms of realism, and that just, for me, that really hurt the movie. Like, it's not just being unrealistic, it's the way in which this movie is unrealistic along with what it's going for. And at times it feels like it has bad stuff happen to the characters for plot's sake. Like, our characters have to have challenges along the way to keep the movie entertaining, but doesn't feel like it actually wants to do anything or do anything to the characters permanently. So it's just like Angelina Jolie gets hit by lightning and then she's fine, and then they're back in the fire tower 5 minutes later. And it's stuff like that that just really hurts the movie, because it's like, it's just, to me, it was bad storytelling, the way they executed the action in this movie. Not the action, but more the action elements. The action itself, when there were the shooting and all that and the fighting, that was fine. I don't have any problems with that. So that was definitely frustrating for me. Also, I think the villains in this movie were both really dumb. Once you got to that final act, the first act of the movie, they're smart. They're like, they blow up a house and then they're like hacking into stuff and like tracking a guy, and they seem like kind of no nonsense kind of mercenaries who are just gonna do whatever it takes to get the job done. Obviously they kill an innocent civilian and all that, and then but by the final act, I just think they got really stupid and got kind of swept up in the action and everything that was going on. And there's a number of scenes like that, like when Nicholas Holt's character dies, he just like completely disregards Angelina Jolie as he walks towards the kid, and then she just sneaks up on him. Like, they were really stupid in this movie, in the final act of this movie, and that honestly ruined the characters who I thought were built up to be really cool villains, and then by the final act, I didn't like them, and they just came off as stupid to me. Anyways, those are my problems with the movie. I went on quite a bit about them, but they're not huge problems. I did enjoy the movie enough, and I really did have a good time with this movie. It's really just like a fun action thriller, and it really delivers on what you would expect from a movie. The characters in this movie were pretty good, and the acting was really good, with a great set of characters, though maybe it was a bit misused. I think this movie could have been a lot better. It was really close to being great, just there was a few issues that held it back, and maybe kind of the directing was probably my biggest issue, with just some of the action in there and all that. So I do have my issues with this movie, but like I said, I enjoyed it enough. So I'm going to give it a 66% and 3 out of 5 stars. I think that's kind of a fair middle of the road rating. It's definitely enjoyable. Entertainment wise, if I was grading entertainment, it would be a lot higher. But there's just a number of issues in the movie that I have. Anyways, that'll do it for my review of Those That Wish Me Dead. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And tell me what you thought of the movie down below. Did you like it? Did you not? I don't know. Do you agree with what I said? Do you not? I'm definitely interested to hear your thoughts on the movie. Anyways, thanks for watching and have a great day.